testing this in my studio. I look kind of jerky. My movements are not smooth. I assume that's what you see as well. Unfortunately, if you see that, please let me know in the chat. But what I'm really hoping for is that my voice is not choppy. The audio is normal. Whoa, that is my alarm. You know what it's telling me to do? It's telling me to put in my eye drops. I'll have to remember to do that later. How is everybody today? So great to see you guys here. I'm seeing Taiwan, Brazil, Russia, Egypt, Costa Rica. I saw Germany earlier. So awesome to have you guys here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks. We're going to watch a video together, and I'm going to look at the chat, answer your questions. We'll stop the video. We'll talk about things that are happening. And we're just going to have fun. It's a watch party live lesson. What could be better? And today I chose the topic of interviewing for a job in the US. It's such a strange and difficult time right now in the US and all over the world. So many people are losing their jobs and going to start looking for work. And it's a crazy time. Some places are hiring, but a lot of places aren't. And so I thought, well, talking about interviewing for a job could be an interesting way to talk about what's happening in the world right now with jobs, with employment. But then it's also a great way to talk about American culture, because maybe the way an interview is handled is way different here than the way it's handled in your own country. So before we get started here, watching the video, my first question for you is anyone out there currently looking for a job, out of work? Did anyone out there lose their job because of the coronavirus and the shutdown in their region? If so, I feel for you, sending you love and support right now. And, let me know also in the comments if you're looking for a job, if maybe you're taking this time as a break, you need to be with your family. Just let me know what's going on with you. And we're going to get started with this video, watching this lesson together. And I'll keep an eye on your comments in chat. I'll pause the video and we'll talk about things. So ask me anything about a job interview, but also anything about American English or pronunciation or American culture. I'm going to do my best to keep my eye on the chat and to try to pick up as many questions as I can. Okay, let's get started with the video. Mock interviews. So we're going to be watching people answering questions, and we're going to talk about what makes a strong answer and what makes an answer a little bit weak, a little bit less interesting. So something you'll want to keep in mind if you're ever interviewing for a job anytime soon. Okay, let's get started. Oh, I have to shrink myself, don't I? I always forget. I don't want to get in the way of the actual video. Okay, here we go. To help you ace your next job interview, we're going to study 4 mock interviews to see what works well and what doesn't work well in an answer. We'll see 4 people: a teacher, a doctor, a social worker, and a marketing expert interview for a job. We'll take some standard interview questions and study how they answered them to figure out how you can form your own compelling answers. Today we'll study 3 prompts. First, tell me a little bit about yourself. Then, tell me about a conflict you had at work and how you resolved it. And finally, describe a meaningful experience you've had at work. For my non-native English-speaking students, I'm going to go over some tips to keep in mind while practicing your interview answers. That lesson will be at the end of the video. For the first prompt, tell me a little bit about yourself. Keep your answer brief. Let's listen to an answer.
My name's Dan. I'm a father of 2 little girls. I'm a social worker. I love playing guitar. I love music. In my spare time, if I'm not playing guitar, I'm jogging. I'm out in the yard with my girls. I love camping.
That's all you need. It's about 13 seconds. Okay, guys, let's pause that. Let's talk together about it. So the first question is often, tell me a little bit about yourself. And you can choose to make that about work. Oh, I graduated from whatever university and I've been working in whatever job for a few years. Or you can choose to make it personal too. That is often what it means, because they will get more into your job history later in the interview. It might feel strange culturally from where you are to talk about personal things in a job interview, but in America, it's okay to give some general things about yourself, like Dan just did. I have 2 girls. I like to play the guitar. Anything like that that can the interviewer can use to relate to you is good, because the interviewer is probably not just looking at your skills, because the interviewer can know a lot about that by not meeting with you in person. Meeting with you in person, they want to know more about you. They want to read you and understand you and feel you. And so they might ask you a question and just see what you do with it, answering a few things about your personal life. Doesn't even really matter what you say. Don't get too personal, but they're really just looking for your personality and how comfortable you are with yourself. So someone says the movement is inconsistent with the sound. I do apologize. I know that my video isn't syncing very well, and I don't actually know how to fix it. But I will fix it before I go live again. That's why I haven't really been announcing these things. I'm still learning a lot about how it all works. Haiti, hey, love it. So many different countries here. Senegal, wonderful to see you guys all here. Someone in the USA, awesome. I'm in Philly. Where are you? So good to see you guys. So someone said, I'm married and I have 1 child. That could be a great way to answer the question, tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, I think it's probably against the law to ask if you're married or to ask if you have children. But if someone says, tell me a little bit about yourself, and you choose to share that, that's great. There's no problem with that. Does any of this feel different from what a job interview would be like in your country? Would you never mention anything personal? Would it feel strange to share something a little bit personal? Let's keep going. If you have children and you want to mention them, great, but you certainly don't have to. He says a couple of things he loves. I love guitar. I love playing music. He also uses the phrase in my spare time to list a couple other activities. Jogging, playing in the yard with his daughters. Come up with 1 or 2 sentences that begin with, I love, I enjoy, or in my spare time, You can elaborate a bit. For example, I love going to the ballet. I studied dance for 12 years when I was a kid. Think of your answer and practice it in a mock interview. Time your answer. Aim for something between 10 and 20 seconds. If you say something that your interviewer can relate to, he or she might pick that up for conversation. Okay, so I've seen 1 person in the chat say something about maybe an answer they would give. Tell me a little bit about yourself. So now I want everybody who can think of something to put something in the chat in English. It's a good time to practice that. Tell me something about yourself. Now I'm going to answer the question. I live in Philadelphia. I have 2 small boys. And one of the things that we love to do is travel. We recently went on a trip to Italy and had a fantastic time. Something like that. Short, not too long. Put your answer in the comments. I'm going to read them. I'm going to learn about you guys. Okay, let's keep going further on with the rest of the video, other questions you might get asked, and watch some pretend answers, mock interview. That means it's not a real interview, but a practice interview. Job interviews these days will ask you about what you have done, not what you will do or would do. Asking a question about a conflict at work would be a common interview question. Conflict is inevitable. Employers want to know how you handle it. You might get asked about a time where you had to resolve a conflict with a coworker. Think of a very specific time and tell the story of it. What the conflict was, how you worked it out. Let's listen to an example answer.
In my last job, I remember when I was working on trying to change some ticket pricing for our events, I had a colleague who was very comfortable with the old way of doing the pricing. So we had a huge conversation about the benefits of rethinking things and trying to improve the system, and he had agreed, but then later on he sent me an email that he was really uncomfortable and really didn't want to do it, and really frustrated. There was a tone coming through to the email that it was something that he just really didn't want to do and was very unhappy.
Adrienne told us her story. She set us up with the details, and now she's explicitly using the phrase, to resolve the conflict, Okay, so this is an important one to be able to talk about things in work that have not gone well, like conflict with a person. It's definitely something that people are going to ask you in an interview, and you want to be prepared with specific stories. Know them ahead of time and know how you're going to talk about them so you can use the opportunity to talk about a problem or a conflict as a way to showcase one of your strengths. And if you've planned ahead for that, you would definitely be able to do it. Now, I'm going to ask you, everybody, put in the chat for me now. Tell me about a conflict you've had at work. It can just be one sentence. For example, let me think of one I had. Okay. One time, my boss asked me why I wasn't doing more of a job running the restaurant where I was working. And I said, because I didn't know that's why I was hired, is that I was hired after the other guy, so I thought he was more senior. And I said, I'd be happy to do that. Can you give me a little training on it? So this person assumed I was going to take more of a leadership role. I didn't understand that. And I owned that. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. This is why. And then I threw out an invitation. I would love to learn more. Could you give me some training on that? Showing willingness, I think, is something that people really, really like to see. They like to see you're willing to try something new. They like to see that you can say, I did that wrong, or I'm sorry, I didn't realize. What can I do to make it better? There is a show called Daniel Tiger, and it's a spinoff of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and my son watches it. And one of the lessons they taught there is it's not enough to just say, I'm sorry. The next thing you say is, how can I help? And so I love that we don't just stop there, I'm sorry, but we say, I'm sorry, what can I do? And in that situation, I said, I didn't understand that was the expectation. What can I do? Is there training I can get in management in the way you want me to run things? I would love to know that. So tell me in the chat about a time you've had conflict. So far, I've been doing as much comment reading as I can, and I have only seen one person say an answer to one of these interview questions. So take a minute, see if you can think of one and put it in. I have seen lots of other countries here, India, England. I saw Slovakia, Iraq. So wonderful. Japanese living in Singapore, China via VPN. So wonderful to see you guys all here. It's so fun to be doing this with you. Okay, let's keep going. And as I said, use this as an opportunity to think of something that you would say, either one or two sentences about yourself or one or two sentences about a conflict you had at work that you resolved. Let's keep going with the video.
So to resolve that conflict, I made an appointment with him the very next morning and went down to meet with him at his office and had a really clear and direct conversation.
I love the details she's giving here. She spoke with him the very next morning. That says to me, she didn't let this conflict sit there and get worse. Right away, she went to him in person to have a conversation about it. She took the time to do this face to face. She talks about having clear and direct conversation. That's great. Disagreeing with someone can be hard, and trying to talk about it even harder. Communicating clearly in these situations is important.
And had a really clear and direct conversation about what his concerns were and what he was thinking and how we could move forward
Okay, Algeria, Vietnam, so wonderful to see you guys here. So basically what she said there, and she's awesome. This woman, Adrienne, I love her. She has a YouTube channel. I'm not sure if she updates it much anymore. She works in the arts, but she just talks about when there is a conflict being very direct with the person you're having a conflict with. That can be hard. Some of us don't have that kind of personality where we want to be very direct and talk about a problem we're having with somebody, but often, especially in a work situation, that's going to bring about the best resolution the quickest way, isn't it? So if you've ever had a conflict with somebody and you felt like you handled it in a very direct and reasonable way, that would be a great thing that you'd want to highlight. Also, someone in the chat was talking about a conflict they had, and they said, I'm still salty about it. And I loved that word. Do any of you guys know that word, the use of that word? So salty means a lot of salt on food. For example, this pasta is too salty, but it can also be used to mean a little bit bitter. I'm still salty about it. Oh, he got that job when I wanted it, and it's been a year, but I'm still kind of salty about it. So great use of that word. I just wanted to point that out because I think it's a great one. And a lot of people probably don't know it. They've probably only ever heard salty used to describe food, but you can also use it to describe how you feel about something. All right, let's keep going. And I'm just going to keep an eye on you guys in chat. Morocco, Sudan, wonderful to have you guys here.
Came to a compromise that we could address his feelings, but also I brought him on board with the ideas that we had come to and made him feel comfortable with how we were going to resolve the situation.
The way she describes it, it sounds like she really listened to her coworker and cared about his thoughts and feelings, why he disagreed with her. That's a really positive trait. Sometimes when we disagree with someone, it's hard to see their side, but she listened to his concerns, addressed them, and ultimately they were able to come up with a compromise. Here's another person answering the question. She talks about working on a project with a supervisor.
Okay. Hold on, I have to stop here. Someone in chat said, I actually really like to disagree. And I like to disagree because that means that we're going to maybe find new ideas, or I like it when someone disagrees with me. So I love that perspective. That would be a great thing to bring up in a job interview. If someone disagreed with you, you had a disagreement with somebody at work, but you felt like it led to a new idea or a new path or something, that would be a wonderful thing to highlight. Of course, everyone likes to think that something positive can come out of conflict, and it can. So if you have an example of it, I think that would be a great thing to highlight in a job interview. Poland, hey, Greece. We got a couple new countries here. Brazil, yep. Oh, someone asks, what time does this class start every day? Well, I'm not going live every day. Right now, I'm going live about once a week. Let's see, I think twice it's been on Saturday and once it's been on Friday. I'm still figuring out technically how to do everything, as you can tell. I'm having some issues with my camera. So once I get things smoothed out and I'm feeling really confident in live streaming, I'll be announcing it and I'll be doing it at a more regular time. But for now, I'm still just, I feel a little bit shy about it. I don't feel very confident in it yet. So I'm just doing some of these to get more comfortable with it and to figure out what issues I still have, like whatever is going on with my camera right now. But definitely, I think it's an important way to be in touch with you guys, especially during this time of the coronavirus and shutdown and all of that. So I'm definitely going to try to do it more. We have Guatemala, we have Syria, Colombia, Mexico, Algeria, Argentina, Spain, Kurdistan. You know, I was just Argentina, Poland, Spain, Ukraine. I was just in Mexico in January, and that feels so far away now. But I had a lovely time, and I'm actually planning on going back again in January, depending on the travel situation. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun exposing Stony and Sawyer to another culture, another language. Stony really had fun working on his few Spanish phrases that we were teaching him. Okay, let's keep going with the mock interview video.
Told me one morning, I think we're going to have to possibly go in a different direction and use something completely different. Okay, I was angry. I felt upset. I wanted to react. I was sad, but I made myself go very slowly and I was calm. And then what I decided to do was ask him questions. And one question
Okay, so this person talked about being angry at her supervisor. And that might feel like something you wouldn't want to mention in a job interview, being angry at your supervisor. But I actually think it's okay because, you know, she took a deep breath. She didn't show anger towards him. It's a very human thing to feel anger when something isn't going your way, when you've been working on a project and someone shuts it down. So by showing that, by saying she felt angry and then she's about to describe how she handled it, it kind of makes me trust her and think she's interesting. So don't be shy about saying things that on the surface could seem negative in a job interview. If you've practiced ahead of time, you can always spin things positively.
Asked him was, can you help me to understand why?
Lisa talked about the reaction she had, but how she stopped herself and began to ask questions. This is just like what Adrienne said she did. Asking questions is a great way to resolve conflict. When you better understand what the other side is thinking and feeling, it can help you figure out exactly how to come to an agreement.
And as he spoke, I realized that he really didn't have enough information. I wasn't quite sure how to point that out to him, but I did say, before we leave this idea and just change, I would like a chance to present to you why I think we should keep what we have. And it turned out that he was willing to look at it. He admitted he hadn't read some of it. And
Okay, so this is great. She's talking about she resolved the conflict she was having by asking questions. And I think that can always be a benefit. If you're just joining me, I do apologize. I know that there are some issues right now with my camera. Believe it or not, it's not the stream. The stream is okay. It's actually the software that I'm using on my computer because it's happening right here on my own computer screen. And I'm going to very much so try to fix that before our next live stream. And I apologize for these technical difficulties and these technical issues. It's frustrating. I feel frustrated. But you know what? I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to do some research and I'm going to make sure that my camera is functioning better before I attempt another live stream. I had this idea that I wanted to go over this video with you guys just because of the times and because I think job interviews can really reflect the culture of a country. And so I thought it would be an interesting thing to live stream with you. So I admit I got ahead of myself. I went live knowing that my camera was maybe not working. I was like hoping when I went live all of a sudden it would be totally normal. I don't know why I thought that. It's never how that is. But keep it coming in chat, guys. I'm enjoying reading what you're saying. And let's continue on with this lesson. So we're studying a video where we're studying some mock interview questions. This is a mock interview is when you practice an interview. This is actually part of a very big series. I think it's like 10 or 12 videos, 10 maybe, about interviewing for a job in the US from the beginning about networking and resume and cover letter and all of that through a lot about interviewing and negotiating your salary. It's an awesome playlist. I've linked to it in the video description, so check it out if you haven't already. You can settle in, just let it play video after video, and if you don't have time to finish, come back. Okay, let's keep going.
Ended up coming back to me and saying, "You're right, I think we should keep what we have."
She asked to present her side. In the end, her supervisor understood and agreed with her. Think of a work conflict you can talk about. Did you ask questions? Did you really listen to the other party? Make sure you highlight this as you talk through the resolution. Both Adrienne and Lisa told stories about a specific conflict. Interviewers want you to do this. They don't want to hear how you handle conflict in general. Listen to Jeff's answer here.
First of all, I would say that working within teams, invariably there's going to be conflict that arises. One of the ways that I've found very helpful to deal with conflict within teams, especially in a leadership position, is to sit down with both parties, provide them a forum to talk to each other, have them listen to each other, and then try to find common ground and ways to move on. Essentially, in a team, what you're trying to do is allow team members to function at the level that they should be functioning. And the other team members have to allow those team members to do that. If not, then conflict will arise. But if you kind of help people...
Okay, so he's done a great job talking about not necessarily conflict he had with somebody, but talking about how he mediated. Do you know that word? Mediated conflict. He wasn't one of the people in the conflict, but he stepped in to help both sides communicate with one another, listen to one another. And that can be a really important skill in a leader, because it might really be that people on your team have a big disagreement about how something should work. Well, it's going to be your responsibility to figure out how to do that, how to mediate conflict, resolve conflict, and make things happen. Okay, a couple people are saying, okay, someone says on your wall, is that a door or a window? That's a window, but it's actually not my wall. This is a green screen that I'm in front of so that when I switched to the video, you can't see the background. And so this is just an image that I chose as my background. This isn't actually where I am. This is a nice looking empty co-working space maybe. But I believe that's a window over there. Okay, someone else asked the question, what do you call it, this problem you're having with your camera? It's a good question. I would say there's a delay. I would say my camera is jerky. It's not smooth. We're having all sorts of problems. If you're just joining us now, I am having problems with my camera. It is not smooth. It is jerky. There's a bit of a delay. I apologize. I'm definitely going to figure it out the next time before I go live. But right now we're watching a video, mock interviews, talking about things you might want to mention and say about yourself in a job interview. You know, there's a lot of preparation you can do ahead of time. You can make that interview be anything you want, depending on how you prepare for it. All right, let's head back to the video. The doctor talking about mediating conflict.
People understand what their role is within the team and what they should be doing. That goes very far to helping reduce conflict.
He talks about why conflict arises and how to handle it. It's an articulate answer and it makes sense, but he doesn't tell a specific story about a conflict. Now he's going to basically say the same thing, but use a specific example.
So one particular conflict that I helped to mediate among our team was among a provider and a RN care manager or registered nurse care manager. Both felt responsibility for taking care of a patient. Both had an understanding about what they thought needed to happen in order to move forward, and both thought that the other person was standing in the way of their ability to do that. So I think one of the biggest issues with working in teams is sometimes, even though you're working together day to day, you're not actually talking to each other. So when they were able to actually talk to each other and explain how they wanted to move forward with the care of the patient, then conflict was able to be resolved.
That's something I can more easily remember. There were two parties involved in caring for a patient. They both had their own ideas about how to do that. When Jeff brought them together to talk it through, a resolution was found and the conflict was resolved. Employers...
Okay, so he did something really important. He gave a specific example. You never want to talk about things generally in a job interview. You always want to have a specific example. And if you're interviewing in English and it's not your native language, that could be harder. It can be harder to think in the moment and formulate your thoughts and express them in English. So especially for non-native speakers, especially if you are interviewing for a job in a language that isn't your native language, you will want to prepare. You can always find mock interview questions online, but watch this whole series I have. We go over some of the most important ones. We go over how to answer those questions. And if you take the time to practice, I guarantee it will go better. It will go more smoothly for you. I was reading in the chat and someone said he quit his job in December. He was between jobs and then COVID-19 came around and he started looking for jobs and he got one at IBM. So that is amazing. Congratulations. At the beginning of this stream, I asked people, what is your employment status right now? I know a lot of people have lost their jobs. Some of my friends own companies and they have had to lay people off. Some of my friends work for companies and they've been laid off. Luckily, so far at Rachel's English, our team hasn't had to change and I hope it remains that way. If you are somebody who's lost your job, especially because of COVID-19 and the coronavirus and the shutdown, I'm thinking of you. I'm wishing the best for you. And, you know, just let me know in the comments if you're struggling, and I will send you a little extra love today. Okay, so someone says lag in the video stream. Yes, that's another good word. I said delay. Lag is another great word for that. Okay, let's keep going. We're studying mock interviews to learn how you might express yourself and answer certain questions in a job interview in America. Keep your questions and comments coming in chat. I am keeping an eye on them.
Want the details in your answers. As you work on your own answer to a question involving a conflict at work and how you resolved it, don't leave out the details. What was the disagreement about? When it was resolved, what was the resolution? You might get the chance in an interview to talk about a meaningful professional experience that you've had. This gives you the chance to show that you're invested in the work you do, that it's not just a job, but something you spend time doing because you care about it. Depending on the position, this could be really important to your employer. Employers want to know you're invested. Listen to how Lisa responds to the prompt. Tell me about a meaningful professional experience you've had.
One time I went with a family, I'm a teacher, and they did not speak English. They had been to the doctor.
Okay, I'm just popping in here, not at a very good spot, but because I just wanted to say, I read your comments. Dennis, I'm probably not pronouncing your name right. Grace, a couple people have lost their jobs and they say it's not easy. Vaishnavi, India, lost job, probably due to the coronavirus, but who knows? Thank you guys for sharing this huge, devastating information. Someone's asking about a schedule. So if you're just joining me here, I did say I'm going to start live streaming. My goal is to live stream once a week in May. I did last Friday, but I'm not announcing. I'm not getting a solid schedule yet because I'm still trying to feel more comfortable with the software. Clearly, I'm not because I'm having these huge lag problems. I'm figuring it out. Once I feel like I've really got it dialed in, that's an idiom that means perfected. I really understand it and I've perfected it. Once I feel like I have it dialed in, then I'll announce it more and I'll be on more of a schedule. I'm doing them now sort of without announcing them, not very planned, so that I can learn on the job, basically, without too many people being there to see all my problems. So that's what's happening. I'm still learning how to live stream. I'm learning how to control everything at once. And once I do that, I'm going to be more regular about letting you know when it's going to happen. I will likely do it on a schedule. As far as my regular videos, they're out every Tuesday at 10 a.m. in Philadelphia time. And actually, the next 3 coming up are so exciting. I love them. And then this summer, I might as well announce it to you now. I'm doing another Learn English with Movies all summer. There are going to be 13 movies in a row. We're taking scenes from different movies and we're doing those full Ben Franklin analysis. And then I'm also adding something extra special at the end of those videos. There's a lot to look forward to. You're going to love training with me this summer. I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you to you guys who shared about losing your job in the time of coronavirus and how devastating that must be. Let's keep going now with this series on how you might talk about yourself in American English in a mock interview.
And I just felt like the doctor was not seeing an important issue with the student. I volunteered to go along, and interestingly, we were at a hearing specialist, and the student took some tests, and the results I was not pleased with. When the doctor presented the results, I said, "Have you even listened to him speak? Could you please listen to how he speaks?" As soon as the doctor listened to the student speaking, he realized the tone of the student's voice did sound like someone that had hearing problems, and it changed the whole trajectory of the whole thing. What ended up happening was that student got placed in a school that was specifically for people that were hard of hearing, and it changed that child's life. So I was so happy that I was able to give that gift of time to that student and that family.
Lisa's story is about a time outside of work, but work related. This is not a requirement.
Okay, so what's wonderful there is she gave a very specific story. And the more specific you can get with the story, the better. People don't want to hear generalizations. They want to hear actual things. That's what they're going to remember. Also, you guys might have noticed me writing something down. So I'm writing down your ideas about how to fix my issue with my camera. So again, I apologize for that, and I will make sure I get it fixed before the next time we go live. Someone else is saying, Khalid is saying, if I understand what you're speaking, is that enough to go to America and understand Americans? Not necessarily, because I do tend to speak just a little bit more slowly when I'm doing something like this, speaking into a microphone, creating a video. It's just a hair slower, I would say, than conversational English. And that's where the Ben Franklin exercises come in more handy, because we're studying English that's usually just a little bit faster. And I know a lot of people who think they're doing okay with their comprehension, and then they come to America and they're like, whoa, I'm not understanding nearly enough here. I've actually had a couple people join my academy recently. You know, the idea of my academy was that it would be mostly for people who wanted to work on their accent and their comfort in speaking English. But I've since realized that there's a lot to get about listening comprehension there. The two are related. And so a lot of people are coming and their primary goal is listening comprehension. And so I have special courses that I've designed just for that. Someone says, can you speak normal? Okay, so I'm going to, for just a couple of seconds, I'm going to give an example of talking as quickly as I would normally talk, starting now. Okay, so I'm going to picture that I'm talking to my friend Laura. She and I went to college, and we get together every fall for a fall baking weekend. You might have seen it. We do videos pretty regularly on the YouTube channel. Anyway, she's just a great friend, and she has 2 daughters, and it's fun for us to get all of our families together. And we always have a dinner party, and we have some friends who live elsewhere in New England over, and it's just always a total blast. That got kind of fast and kind of sloppy in some places, right? For any of you, was that harder to understand? I imagine it was. Someone says, which tools would you recommend to understand native speaker better? I would recommend my Ben Franklin exercises here on my YouTube channel. If you have interest and you're able to join my academy, I have several courses that really focus on it. I have one that focuses on the reductions we do and how we simplify words and say them very quickly. When you know those and you're more comfortable with them, that's really going to help with listening comprehension. Also, when you understand the way Americans link words, and I do have a course on linking specifically. Other than that, a lot of exposure, watching as many movies, TV, YouTube channels as you can. I would say, you know, maybe even YouTube channels would be better than movies and TV. If you're watching younger people in their teens and 20s, I think they tend to speak more quickly. So if you use that and you really understand those people, I think you're going to be just fine when you come to the US. Okay, let's keep going. See what else we can learn. And keep your questions coming in chat. I love them, and I'm happy to read them.
Of her job, but something she did for the students because she saw the need. That shows a huge commitment to the children she teaches. Let's hear Jeff's answer.
So I would say one of the most meaningful professional experiences that I've ever had is establishing a care model within our health system for folks with complex health and social needs. These are patients that have a lot of chronic disease, they have a lot of psychosocial burdens, and typically they were just not being cared well in our system, and they were caught in a revolving door of inpatient admissions and being discharged and then coming right back in, sometimes before they even got to see their family doctor again. So building on some work of others around the country, I was able to establish a new healthcare delivery model that took into account the fact that psychosocial barriers actually play a big role in the reasons why these folks are admitted frequently. And if we dealt with those barriers, then often we could prevent them from being hospitalized as frequently.
I like Jeff's answer because in it, he talks about an incredible...
I got big there. Okay, Young Hua said she is a member of the Academy, and she's been there for 2 months, and she loves it. Great. I'm so glad to have you there. Someone else actually said, I'm a member of your Academy, Muslim, Muslim Bilal, and I sent you an email, but you didn't answer it. I guess try sending it again, because I really do answer most of the emails. Me or maybe Tom will answer them. I will answer them, or Tom. Yeah. So this guy is a doctor that we're listening to now, and he's giving a specific story about some big picture thinking he did. He put a new system in place for how to deal with their most sick patients, their patients that use the ER the most. And that's pretty great. That's going above and beyond just the normal care that he might do. He saw a bigger problem and he tried to think, how can we solve this bigger problem? It's not just providing care to the individual. And so he pulled together this group of people to brainstorm this and come up with systems that would serve these people better. Definitely, look back at your work life and think of the thing you're most proud of and make sure you find a way to mention that in your interview. Know how you're going to talk about it, and then find the right question that you can use to guide yourself towards that answer. Someone says they can only understand about 50%. And I know that this is extra hard because there's no captioning here in the live videos. Of course, on my regular Tuesday videos, there is. Here, there's not. But you know what? That's just your starting spot. That's not your end spot. Wherever you are now, just embrace it and think, okay, this is where I am. This is my goal. What are the tools I need to get there? And then just use those tools and try to be happy about it. The people who are the most down on themselves, I think, are the people who slow themselves down the most. My students who fret and worry about everything they do wrong improve more slowly. So attitude matters a lot. So just think about that. Try to keep that in mind as you talk about yourself. Assess where you're at and just say, that's my starting spot. And then just go from there. All right, let's keep going.
Incredible change that he brought about. A huge undertaking. He established a new care model within his health system, and he's found an opportunity to talk about that, not in a bragging way, I'm great because I established a new care model, but rather, it was meaningful for me to be able to establish a new care model. Even if you're not directly asked a question about meaningful experience, see if you can connect a sense of meaning or satisfaction to your achievements as you talk about them. Let's hear how Adrian answers this question.
In my last job, I had the opportunity to manage a truly superstar employee. And most colleagues are wonderful to work with, but you have these experiences where there are one or two who truly shine and you really click with. And it was just a really wonderful chance to collaborate with her and make some real change within the organization. With the two of us working together, we were able to have a lot of great ideas, and both of us were able to then shine more. Being able to provide her input on her projects and help her along and guide her a little bit, and then see her really shine presenting to her colleagues and grow in her position was really meaningful for me to be a part of.
This is great.
Okay, wonderful. So she had a story to tell about being a leader to someone, a mentor to someone in her workplace, and how letting that person shine and helping that person do their job well was meaningful for her. Everybody wants to hire people on their team who help the overall feeling of the group and help people find their strengths. So if you're a natural leader like this and you have a specific story about that, definitely find a way to work it into your interview. As I said, if you know ahead of time what you want to say, you'll be able to take any questions that are asked and bring those things in. Interviews are long enough. There are enough questions. You'll be able to say what you want to say. Just make sure that you've prepared it all ahead of time. A couple people are saying, oh, I need a pronunciation course. Definitely check out rachelsenglishacademy.com. That's mine. I think it's amazing, of course. Other people are saying, how can I be in touch with you? So on my website, rachelsenglish.com, there's a contact form there. And we're able to read almost all of them, really, and reply to very many of the emails that come through. Someone from Panama. Excellent. Wonderful to have you here. Okay, let's keep going. Make myself smaller here so I'm not blocking the shot. And here we go.
She's talking about a strong working relationship with a coworker, and in almost any position, you want someone who works well with others and values working well with others. This also happened to be someone that Adrienne managed, so she was able to talk about that skill too, how with her input, this person was able to really shine in her role. That's a good manager. As you think of your answers to various common interview questions, think about different kinds of things you can highlight in any given answer. Leadership, a great idea, ability to work well with others, ability to respond quickly to a situation. Make sure that your different answers show different strengths rather than all speaking to the same strength. In the next 2 videos, we'll pull different common
Okay, so I was then going to go on and sort of wrap that video up, talk about what's coming next. Sorry, little audio issue. And so you can go on and check out the rest of that video and also the videos that come after that. But I wanted to, there was a question that came through in chat. What was it? I wanted to talk about it. Oh, yeah. Farhad says, what does it mean to click with someone? And I think that's what Adrienne said in her interview, or maybe you heard that somewhere else. But to click with someone means to get along with them, to work the same way, to have the same interests. It's a great feeling to find someone you click with. Hopefully you really click with your spouse. It's easy to be around that person. It's easy to live with that person or to work with that person or whatever the context is. You know, what's funny, sometimes you can even have a really good friend that you don't necessarily click with. You have some conflicts. It's not always easy, but you know, clicking with somebody is not the same thing as friendship. It's more like works well together, common interests, personality matches. You don't rub each other the wrong way. You click. And it's a great thing. It's really wonderful when people on your team click together. That kind of means that everything is just going to work well. Communication will be good, and you can assume that what you're working on will go smoothly. Okay, guys, so that's the end of that video for this week. Thank you for joining me here. As I said, next week, I'm really hoping I'm not going to do another live stream unless I get this camera issue fixed, okay? That will be my promise to you. So thank you guys so much for being here, for joining me in the chat. I really enjoyed connecting with you. Whoa, seeing all of the places you're from and reading your questions and comments. Thank you for sharing with me and for being here. And yeah, keep an eye out. I will announce my next live stream a little bit ahead of time. And as I get more and more comfortable with this method, I will make sure that I'm announcing it very regularly.